Okay, for those of you that are just joining us, I'm Sean Krause, Bureau Chief of Freshwater Fisheries, and welcome to the first of two Freshwater Fisheries meetings of 2024. That was a great video we put together to highlight, the diversity and responsibilities of fish and wildlife managers, and really proud of the work that's been done. This meeting is an annual tradition to provide information to the angling public and to provide a platform for interaction. We have a bunch of staff here from our Assistant Director, Lisa Barno, our fisheries biologists, staff from our Hackettstown Fish Hatchery, law enforcement, land management, and significant help from staff from our Bureau of Information Education to put this together. We're going to be giving a series of presentations, and we're going to be here to answer questions that you might have. So taking a peek at the agenda here, we started with that video. This is the welcome. We're going to have a couple updates. That's going to be followed by a very popular topic of bass sampling, a review of some of the good work we've done. We've done some surveys associated with these virtual meetings, and one of the most popular things that you, the angler, have asked for are water body specific information and species specific information. So that's going to be definitely be a good one for you. Following that, we're going to have a presentation of a demonstration of the Freshwater Fishing Explorer on our website. A very brief mention of some of our candidate endangered and threatened fish species, followed by an entertaining bit of information about our Walleye Broodstock collection and spawning at the hatchery. Brief update on our Skillful Angler program. And then we're going to end with general question and answer period. And before we get started, I'm just going to mention here, there's a lot of dates. You don't have to really, look too close or memorize that. I just want to make you aware that we are about to start a new fish code cycle where we update our regulations. Our current code expires as of January of 2025, so that's when we would need to have new regulations set in place. But the process, as you can see, starts now. So the identification of potential regulation changes is occurring now, and we're going to be very interested to hear any input, any ideas, whether it's through this meeting or any point in the near future. One of the great things about our angling community and our staff is I feel like we have a great relationship. So reach out to staff, go through your federation, and shoot emails. Let us know what you're thinking, and we can explore options for potential regulation changes. And all that needs to take place so new regulations can go into effect January 1st, 2026. Yeah, and I'm seeing a typo there right at the beginning. The current code expires December of 2025. Sorry about that. And moving on next in the agenda, I'm going to introduce our Assistant Director, Lisa Barno, and former Bureau Chief of Freshwater Fisheries herself. Lisa, it's all yours.
Thanks, Sean. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us tonight for what is actually the 20th anniversary of New Jersey Fish and Wildlife Fisheries Forums. We began these meetings back in 2004 with the first really at our Hackettstown Hatchery, appropriately in the original fish hatch building built in 1912. We held another later in the southern region at Rowan College, which I think we had about 12 anglers present. So we've come a long way with now usually over 100, and sometimes we've even reached over 200 anglers present. While these meetings have moved into a more virtual realm, the main intent has not changed. It lets us inform you of the work that is being done in the realm of fisheries management and fish production, and also provides an opportunity for you to weigh in on the management of freshwater fish in the state of New Jersey, and also alert us to issues and concerns and suggestions that you have in regard to access and management. The 2024 forums for me are a little bit bittersweet, as I initiated the forums when I became Chief of Freshwater Fisheries, and these are my last as I'll be retiring at the end of this month. So I want to thank you all for 2 decades of great discussions, insight, and for you taking an active role in the management of our state's freshwater fisheries. As you know, the staff is top-notch, and they take great pride in the work that they do. A great example of this is the Go Fish Fridays that Hatchery Superintendent Craig Lemon puts together each week and are shared with our I&E staff across social media. We are nearing the 156, which is the 3rd anniversary at the end of this month. In-house, they make all of our efforts worthwhile to see the photos each week. We greatly appreciate all those anglers who share your photos. Along those same lines are those that submit recognition through our Skillful Anglers program run by Fisheries technician Kyle Civilier. We would definitely like to see a lot more anglers submit their catches to this program to help highlight the great fishing opportunities that exist in our inland waters. If you're more interested about the program and not sure about it, you can find more information on our website. And before I get into some quick highlights, to the freshwater fishery staff, it has truly been an honor working for you over the past 3 decades. So on to the highlights. Earlier this year, the governor signed in law correcting issues with our buddy fishing license. The buddy license provides almost a 50% discount to anyone purchasing a fishing license with either a new or a lapsed angler. A lapsed angler is anyone who hasn't purchased a license in the past 5 years. Unfortunately, the original legislation passed in 2015 and had the set year of 2010 instead of a 5-year rolling time frame. So right now, only anglers who had last purchased a license 14 years ago is considered lapsed and eligible for the discount, in addition to new anglers. The law signed by Governor Murphy has changed that, but it does require modification into our electronic license system. So this change will take effect beginning in 2025. So I urge you all to be prepared, find a buddy, because this will really be the first time this program, since it was initiated with a new ELS system and this correction, that will be able to fully utilize this discount across our angling community. I also know a number of you that are signing in tonight are interested in the update on the Greenwood Lake boat ramp. That is definitely something dear to me. And for those of you that have been following, you are aware that we're looking at a public launch at Browns Point, which is managed by Parks and Forestry, and that we have run into Highland regulation restrictions concerning the amount of impervious cover we can add to the site. This affects the amount of parking that we can provide. We have tried several different ways of addressing the concerns to offset the impact. The latest we have done is about the 3rd recalculation of impervious area, and that has been resubmitted back to the engineering firm. We anticipating seeing the 3rd revision of the concept plans in June. And after an internal review, and if there's preliminary approval, those plans should be posted online, more than likely sometime this late summer. I can definitely appreciate the frustrations with everyone with how long this is taking, but I can assure you getting as much available parking for such an important fishery that this time will be well worth the time invested. And we greatly appreciate the support all along the way from the angling community and your interest behind this. Your emails, your phone calls to the department, to the legislature, definitely helps keep this as a priority and makes it easier for us to get what we need to keep advancing this important boat ramp forward. Moving on to the hatchery infrastructure improvements, we have had several long-awaited hatchery infrastructure improvements that were completed last year. A new garage and storage building was added at Hackettstown. Last fall, the roadways and parking lots were repaved at Peak West. The AC unit, referenced as the chiller that runs at the Peak West Education Center, was also replaced, though we've had some unforeseen issues and we anticipate it to finally be operational this summer. And just recently, the UV treatment system at Peak West was recently replaced. We're still working out a few kinks with the new system, but that'll be up and running shortly. We use ultraviolet treatments in our drinking water as chlorine in a trout hatchery does not mix well. This year, we also continue working on our infrastructure improvements. We will begin the bidding and design to replace the nursery tanks at Peak West and what we refer to as the wall tank, which basically spans the entire length of the nursery area and feeds each of the individual tanks within the building. The gas pumps at the hatchery will also be replaced, and we are working on scoping out a large well repair project, which will focus on well 7 and well 5, the hatchery's two biggest wells, as well as replacing well housing and monitoring equipment throughout the 7 well infrastructure. At Hackettstown, we're looking at having the boilers replaced, and that feeds the 3-temperature water that feeds all the intensive tanks within the intensive building. Beyond the infrastructure of a hatchery, each year Fish and Wildlife receives about $1 million in corporate business tax funds to help towards fishing and boating access. Part of this will be used for new docks around Valley this year, which will probably go in more than likely later this fall. If you haven't been keeping tabs on the reservoir level, Brown Valley is 98% full. And I don't think any of us ever anticipated such a quick refill of the reservoir. So we're all really excited about that. We also have funding to upgrade the restrooms, which those of you who use Round Valley know that's long overdue. At Jake's Landing at the Dennis Creek Wildlife Management Area in Woodbine, we're looking at a new ramp reconstruction, which is in the design phase. And the bids will be going out later this month. The Belvedere ramp is also in the design phase. At Spicer Creek, we're looking at repairing the ramp and installing a new floating dock, which we expect to begin this winter. And at Stevens and Maple Lake, which are part of the Mays Landing and Maple Lake Wildlife Management Area, we'll be putting in floating docks and replacing the existing structures and regrading the parking areas. And that is expected actually to be completed by the end of this month. With that, I'm going to pass it back over to Chief Kraus. Thank you again for attending tonight.
All right, well, thank you everybody for the opportunity to come and speak with you once again. As Lisa was speaking to you, I was kind of recounting the last 20 years of forums, and I believe that I may be the only other person aside from Lisa that attended every single forum for the last 20 years, I think. So definitely it's been fun, along the way, and all the talks that I've had the opportunity to give for the last 20 years. So again, here we are. Again, Chris Smith, Principal Fisheries Biologist with the Bureau of Freshwater Fisheries. And like I have done in many other years, I'm going to give you an update on some of the black bass management activities that we did last year. So anyway, like I said, we're going to go over some of our sampling results. Have quite a bit. I'm going to go through it rather quickly, hopefully. If at the end we have time for questions, definitely we'll talk then. If not, I'll have my email address, my phone number. Definitely feel free to give me a call if you have any questions about any of the water bodies at the end of the talk. So when we go out and do our electrofishing surveys, we can have targeted surveys. like we're looking for bass, or we have a general assessment, we would call it. So a general warm water assessment. This past year, we did 27 electrofishing surveys at 23 water bodies. From these, 7 of these surveys also targeted invasive species. So you can see that a survey may have multiple reasons. When we're going out collecting our data and collecting our information, before we can kind of get a good idea of an assessment of what's going on, we have certain parameters that we're eventually going to look at. These are indices of distribution, condition, and abundance. So when I say I'm going to refer to these quite often, when I'm talking about the individual lakes, the PSD, the PSDP, PSDM, this has been asked in the past, what does that mean? Well, these are a proportional size distribution. This is a percentage of the sample population greater than a predetermined size. So in this case, for largemouth bass, we're looking at 12-inch fish, 15-inch fish, and 20-inch fish. Our recommended values for each one of these indices is for PSD, we're looking at 40 to 70% of a population should be above 12 inches to be in good condition. 10 to 40% of the population should be over 15 inches, and about 0 to 10% should be over 20 inches. So when we look at our condition, our index of condition is called our relative weight, or WR, and this is we compare to a standard weight chart, and it tells how robust of a fish it is. Is there too many fish in the lake? Do we have an overabundance of fish? Do we have an underabundance of fish? Do we not have enough forage? Is habitat a limiting factor? These are all conditions that can, affect relative weight. Next parameter that we look at is our CPUE. This is our catch per unit effort. So the catch rate and the catchability, of a fish is really affected by lake depth, turbidity, temperature, and available cover. We'll talk about that variability in CPUE as we go along. So our first water body that we're going to go over is Assunpink Lake. So I'm actually here this evening at our Central Region office here in Monmouth County at Assunpink. Our largest, we have 3 lakes here at the Wildlife Management Area, 3 main lakes. Assunpink, Stone Tavern, Rising Sun. We're going to go over those a little bit later, the other ones. Assunpink is the only one managed under a lunker bass regulation. So this is where we have an increased size limit and a decreased creel limit going from 15 inches and 3 opposed to our normal 12 inches and 5. For the last few years, we've been doing some pretty intensive electrofishing surveys in spring and in the fall, looking at our PSDs, our PSDPs, and our CPUE. You can see from this table on the top left-hand side that our CPUE has been increasing over the last 3 years. Have a little sneak peek for next year. We already did our 2024 survey back a few weeks ago in March, and we had our highest PSD, PSDP, and CPUE for a number of years. The graph on the bottom left-hand side, the blue line shows that kind of that squiggly line is a steady decline in the CPUE from 2017 to 2024. We really started getting kind of concerned in 22 and 23 that things were kind of, not looking so good, but we're happy to see things definitely are on the turnaround. We think we hit the bottom of that trend, and we're back on our way up, and things should continue to be looking good for Assunpink. We do have it on the list here to do this year to do some supplemental stocking of largemouth bass to kind of give it an extra little jump. Assunpink Lake is one of the lakes that was impacted by largemouth bass virus back about 10 plus years ago. And a lot of those lakes are really, just now getting back to where they once were at historical levels. So our next lake, we're heading a little farther down south, down in Salem County, is the Salem Canal. We have a Fish and Wildlife boat ramp that's been in place for about 15 years now. On the canal, we first inventoried the canal in 1999. We've done a lot of sampling since then. It's 2007, all the way through 2023. We were there almost every single year. A couple of years off, and definitely those COVID years when we weren't doing a lot of work sampling. We've been there pretty much, annually. This is one of our places that we have an abundant population of northern snakeheads. They came in through the floodgate that goes right out to the Delaware River, and they're well established. It's just perfect habitat for the snakehead, and we've talked about those in previous forums about invasive species. So we did 2 surveys for bass this past year on the canal, July and October. Similar runtime for both, a little over an hour. Had kind of similar catch rates, 16 bass per hour in the summer, a little higher in the fall, 22 bass per hour. We had 22 snakeheads though in the fall, whereas we only had 7 in the summer. But things are definitely looking good for the canal. As we, the catch rate is a little bit lower than it used to be, but the size of the fish is getting very good. As you can see pictured on the bottom right-hand side, some nice quality largemouth that we collected during our electrofishing survey. You will note that 2 of the fish that I'm holding do have some big black spots on it. This is blotchy bass syndrome. It's a virus. There's a lot more that's understood about this now than in the past. We used to just say it was a variation in the coloration. We're now finding that that's not necessarily the truth. So that and other issues, we can also get you more information if you'd like to hear more about that. Moving back up to North Jersey, as Lisa mentioned, Round Valley Reservoir, we're back up almost to full pool, 98%. A lot of that cover, woody debris and vegetation that grew up along the shorelines while the reservoir was down is going to be excellent habitat for largemouth bass. We did an inventory there in 2016, produced the biggest bass that I've ever held during an electrofishing survey, just under 9 pounds. And I do believe that the fish had already started spawning. So it's definitely possible that that was a little over 9 pounds, only a week or 2 weeks earlier than that. The one thing that's notable that in 2023, when biologist Scott Collenberg did a electrofishing survey there, was the really low catch rate. About 10 fish per hour is what we're looking at, and that's the lowest that we've seen since 2007, when we really started looking at it. I mean, we've sampled before that, but from this graph. So below average, catch rate, but we believe that the increased habitat is really going to jumpstart things again. Our sample population was so low during this survey in 2023 that I actually used a length distribution graph from our 2006 inventory showing the bass population at that time to kind of show what we intend to do with a potential change in regulation. So the red line kind of in the to the right-hand side of all those black bars, that's showing about where 15 inches should be. So you can see the most of the population, sample population, is below 15 inches. And really for a lake of that caliber and the potential that it has, we'd like to see a lot more of the fish that are closer to that 15-inch size line. So what we intend to do is to implement the lunker bass regulations, similar to Assunpink, at Round Valley during the next code cycle, which we're currently in. On the same note, we also did 2 electrofishing surveys at Merrill Creek Reservoir just down the road in April and in October. This was last sampled in 2015, 2019. Former biologist Pat Hamilton worked in conjunction with a private consultant. Because this is a private reservoir, they had an agreement where a private consultant was actually doing most of the work at the time, but we still collaborated, on those sampling results and analyzed their data. We are doing all of our own sampling now. So we did 2 nighttime electrofishing surveys. Here pictured, we have some nice largemouth bass, nice smallmouth. We did run into one of those nice salmon that are also swimming around in the lake. And the one thing that we found was that the catch per unit effort was significantly lower in 2023 than when it was last sampled in 2019. Notably was that even though we had a pretty small sample size, was the top graph on the right-hand side is from 2019. The bottom graph is actually from 2023. So we have the exact same curve within the population structure 5 years apart, which was pretty interesting, I thought. But the downside is that we really want to see that curve kind of inverted, where we see that trough in the middle of the 2 peaks. We actually want to see the peak right in that area. So we want to get this population kind of a little more in check, kind of shifted around a little bit to get more. There's some really nice big ones, but I don't think there's enough of them. So again, what we intend to do for Merrill Creek is we want to start out with some supplemental bass stocking, go to imposing our lunker bass regulations, which would reduce our creel limit down from 5 fish down to 3 fish. We're going to increase our size limit from 12 inches to 15 inches, which in effect is going to the regulation would aim to increase our size distribution with more large fish greater than 15 inches. And again, it's going to protect our existing larger fish. So that brings us to our first poll question. And if Sean, if you can launch that question on lunker bass regulations.
Would you support lunker bass regulations at Merrill Creek Reservoir and Round Valley Reservoir? And as a reminder, the lunker bass regs are 15-inch size limit with a 3-fish daily limit. And the options are, yes, I support both, support only Merrill Creek Reservoir, support only Round Valley Reservoir, do not support either water body, and don't know or don't care. So as of right now, I can give you the live polling information here that 74% of the folks on this call have responded, and it's looking like 90% of the anglers on at this meeting are in support of the regulation change at both water bodies. So we're at 79%, 82%. We'll give it another second before I close. So 88% of all the folks on this call are supportive of that regulation, and 6% were don't know, don't care.
Okay, it's good to know. So while we're still sticking on the lunker bass theme, one of our other lakes down in South Jersey, Alloway Lake, also is a lunker bass lake. We inventoried Alloway Lake in 2011. After we did that inventory, it had such a high quality bass fishery that we wanted to, that's one that we kind of wanted to protect what was the existing fishery instead of creating. So we thought that lunker bass regulations were the best action. So we put those in place. And as you can see from the fish we're holding, they continue to produce some excellent fish. We also sampled it again in 2013, 15, 18, and like I said, in 23. This survey was completed in the fall. We actually took advantage of a planned lowering to do some dam repair work and working on the fish ladder that they have there that's intended for river herring. So the lake was about 3 feet low when we lowered it. You can see down at the bottom, we collected 102 bass in just over an hour, which resulted in a CPUE of 93 bass per hour. This is a high catch rate. We do think that this was slightly elevated because of doing the survey while the lake was lowered. However, we really wanted to get a better handle on the whole population distribution and not overall abundance of fish. So we see a PSD of 39 and a PSDP of 22. So again, these are our 12-inch and our 15-inch fish. So these numbers are kind of on the low end of acceptable, but we had a lot of small fish that we caught, so which was excellent to see. So not concerned with the low numbers there. It's just that we had an awful lot of small fish that we collected that day. Forage base looks good. Gizzard shad, bluegill, yellow perch are all in high abundance and looked good. Anglers are catching a couple striped bass that have come up through the fish ladder in the lake now. We haven't collected any snakeheads yet, but we did collect snakeheads downstream in Alloway Creek. So they are in the drainage, and it's only a matter of time before we collect them in the lake too. So hopping over to Atlantic County, we have Lake Lenape. We inventoried the lake in 2006. Sampled it a number of times since then. This is a lake, lower pH. It's in the Great Egg Harbor River drainage. That lower pH water has a tendency to limit reproduction some years. We have some sporadic reproductions. We've supplemented stocking a number of years, probably about 6 years, 7 years of stocking. Things are looking really good. We have some really nice quality fish, as indicated by our PSD of 91 and our PSDP of 70. So 91% of fish are over 12 inches, 70% are over 15 inches. CPUE wasn't bad. When I did the inventory in 2006, we had a similar CPUE, 17 bass per hour. So things are looking really good there. We'll probably hold off on stocking there for the next couple of years and kind of just let things play out. Moving back over to the other side of the state, Cumberland County, Davis Mill Pond. We first sampled this lake in 2000. sampled it a lot since. This is another one where that was impacted by largemouth bass fires. The population pretty much crashed in 2006, 2007. Really poor condition fish, lots of sores, and not very many of them. So we did some supplemental stocking. Definitely kudos to Craig and the guys, at Hackettstown for continuing to produce a great product, getting us the bass that we asked for, every year. And I do think that this is absolutely instrumental in, in rebuilding these bass populations that we lost to largemouth bass fires. So we're going to continue to monitor this one, also do some additional stocking. You can see from 2016 to 2023, our CPUE has gone up from 38 to 40 to 53. So every year we continue to increase, and the fish that are there are beautiful, gorgeous looking fish. Moving back over a little farther north, over to the coast again, is Manasquan Reservoir. Hopped on the boat with Eric and Kyle and came out to do some a survey with them. It's a 720 acre water supply reservoir, Monmouth County. Sampled it on the night of April 20th. Little over 2 hours of electrofishing, caught 99 total bass, 95 largemouth and 4 smallmouth. We had a total CPUE of 44 bass per hour. Things look good. 58% are over 12 inches, 38% are over 17 inches, or 15 inches, right where we want to be. 3% are over 20 inches. The largest bass that we collected that night was 6.43 pounds. The pictures over on the right, the 2 upper ones in the dark, those are from that survey. The ones down at the bottom in the daytime, those are from the previous year in the fall of, I believe it was October of 22. So all of our surveys are very consistent. We continue to catch, similar sized fish every time we survey this water body, and most of these. It's not a one-time thing where we just happen to catch a couple big fish, one survey. We're repeating it every single time. Definitely noteworthy is if anybody's out on this reservoir, on this water body, there is a plant species, an invasive plant called hydrilla. This is one of our locations that we have the boat steward at. They might have some questions. They do a boat inspection of your boat, of your trailer. Definitely be cognizant of any fragments that are attached to any of your equipment, and remove those before you go to another water body, because that plant does grow by fragmentation, and we don't want to spread hydrilla throughout the state. Moving a little farther north, we have Spruce Run Reservoir in Hunterdon County. Another one of our water supply reservoirs, and another place you might see that boat steward there at 1,290 acres. Is one of our largest impoundments in the state. We also stock hybrid striped bass and northern pike, which if you tune in 2 weeks from now, you're going to hear a little bit more about those fisheries and how they're doing from Justin in just a couple weeks. So we have some really nice bass. It's pictured in the largemouth. It's pictured that Kyle's holding. That during that survey, it was a 3-hour survey. About 91 bass were caught during the survey. Again, 89% of the largemouth are over 12 inches, 54% are over 15 inches. Things are looking really good. Catch rate of 29 bass per hour. It's pretty good for a water body of that nature that, it has limited cover, at times, when it bleeds up and down. So, that's a pretty good catch rate. The next one, heading a little bit farther south again, this is another one that Eric did. Lake Carasalgo in Ocean County, located in Lakewood. This one is one of our best functioning fish ladders, in my opinion. We see adult river herring swimming around and spawning in the lake. We see juvenile river herring in the fall when we do surveys. It's a 67-acre impoundment of the Matita. It's been part of the Channel Catfish Stocking Program since 1993. We sampled it again in April, just in the pre-spawn, and probably just starting to spawn last year. And we caught 30 bass, had 20 per hour, which is decent for this pond. A little bit lower pH. Expect to have a little bit lower density population. Fish are great size. 100% were over 12 inches, 63% were over 15 inches, and 3% were over 20 inches. And looks really good. We'll consider to do some additional stocking there to keep that population going too in the near future. Another one of our lunker bass lakes, State Park Lake, Parvin Lake down in Salem County. I've been sampling this lake for over 25 years, and we were there in November. Did a little over an hour and a half of electrofishing, had 78 bass, catch rate of 48 per hour. That's pretty consistent for, for that water body. And things are looking good. 57% over 12 inches, 26% over 15 inches, and it's right where it needs to be. So I think I have this one on the list too, to do some supplemental bass stocking this year too. One of my favorite lakes in the state, this is kind of where I kind of got my start bass fishing, we'll say, was at Union Lake. It's our largest lake in South Jersey at 898 acres. It's one of our most popular wildlife management areas in the state. Excellent facility, big parking lot, nice boat ramp, new and improved, longer boat dock or dock at the boat ramp. We've been sampling this thing almost, this lake regularly, almost annually for over 20 years now. And on top of that, another lake impacted by largemouth bass fires, and we've been stocking a lot of fish, for a lot of years, and it is showing. It's definitely back to, the peak of the early 90s, mid 90s, when it really was at its peak. Things are looking really good. I will note that the pictures on the right-hand side of the screen are actually from 2 weeks ago. We just did our survey for 2024, and those pictures, I snuck them in, just because the fish were really nice. So again, we'll talk about that a little more detail next year too. We had a request this year. Only have a couple more. I got two more. We had a request from Camden County Parks to do Newton Lake. They just completed a dredging project. Seems to somewhat have helped and improved depth in the lake, not significantly in our opinion, but definitely some areas of the lake are a little bit deeper than they used to be, increase some flow. We're limited to how much we can sample in the lake. There's a series of bridges that go across the lake. They're very low. You can see the picture of our electrofishing boat with our high railing. We're not able to get under those low bridges. Keeps us from being able to access the other areas, but habitat's pretty much similar. We did collect 33 largemouth and 6 snakeheads in the areas we can get to, just under an hour of surveying. No stocking is recommended at this point. It's another one that has a fish ladder, and you can see we did find some juvenile, river herring in the lake. And we also continued to sample this one, a number of times because of the snakehead population that we're monitoring there. So our last water body that I'm going to highlight is Stone Tavern Lake. Again, here at Assunpink Wildlife Management Area, we have a new concrete boat ramp and floating dock at both Stone Tavern and Rising Sun in the last year or so. Again, kudos to our agency for getting, improving our facilities and really making it a lot easier to launch at these lakes. We completed a survey last April, collected 134 bass in 1 hour. This was our highest CPUE of the year. So sometimes when you have a CPUE of that high, you catch that many fish, it has a tendency the bass populations can stunt. You have a lot of little ones. This isn't the case at Stone Tavern. We had 85% of our bass were over 12 inches, 37% of our bass were over 15 inches, 1% over 20 inches. Things look great. We've done some supplemental stocking in 2011, 22, and 23. Things look great. No more stocking really needed at this point. And we'll just continue to monitor that population. So that concludes the sampling results. We do have one, as Sean mentioned, and I mentioned too, this is a fish code year. We have one potential regulation change we're looking at, Raker Lake in Sussex County. It's part of Sparta Mountain, WMA. We acquired the lake in 1997. It was in inventory by Bob Papson in 1997. It's a 30-acre impoundment. At the time, it was considered to have a low population density. In order to protect the existing fishery, he placed what was a conservation regulation, so it was managed under a 2-fish limit with a 15-inch size limit bass regulation on there. In 20 years that regulation has been in effect, when we recently sampled it in 2017, the population looks exactly the same. So it really hasn't improved things. We don't have any more or bigger fish than we had in the past. And then due to the limited usability because of the abundance of water chestnuts that are currently in the lake, we have elected to make a recommendation to remove the conservation regulation from the lake and just go back to our normal 12 inches and 5 fish for that water body. couple other lakes that I just don't have time to. I already went way over my time, but Lake Audrey, we sampled, DOD, Lefferts Lake, Rising Sun, Prospertown Lake, and the Delaware River in a number of locations. We also sampled those bass populations too. So any other ones, definitely, send me an email, give me a call. And the picture here is the largest bass that we had of the year. That was actually from Prospertown Lake, and it was a little over 7 pounds. So with that, I thank you. And I will take any questions. I know we don't have much time, but send me an email or give me a call.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Blythe. I work with the Office of Fish and Wildlife Information Systems. We're a small office that provide mapping and data analysis support for the various bureaus in fish and wildlife. And I wanted to show you a few map applications, web maps that we've produced for freshwater fisheries. So there's a couple of ways you can get to them. You can just go to our website, click on maps. Yeah. So and you scroll down, and then you'll see a couple different explorers that we have. And what I want to talk about tonight is the Freshwater Fishing Explorer. You can also get to it. You click on fishing, just scroll down, and Freshwater Fishing Explorer. So this is kind of an envelope that contains 2 web maps, Great Fishing Close to Home and our trout stocked waters. You click on those or continue to scroll down. Gives you a little introduction. And the first is the Great Fishing Close to Home. We have a quick start guide. This is a downloadable PDF which takes you through how to use it. There's several tools, and you can see we have explanations for each tool icon. You can keep this page open, or you can download it and print it out. And so here's the actual web map with a brief splash screen. You can find, you can go here and get a fishing license or find a place to get one. Find out about harmful algal bloom advisories. Anyway, here's the map. So this map is 290 lakes, ponds, and reservoirs that the fish biologists have chosen as great places to fish in New Jersey. You'll notice that as you zoom in, different layers come up. So you'll see the municipalities. You zoom in closer, it switches to aerial imagery. You'll see open space. And if you zoom in really close, you'll even see the property boundaries. So for each of these, you can click on the lake and find information about that place to fish, including the various sport fish that are there, various attributes like whether there's a boat launch, there's a map link, takes you to Google Maps. This information page, again, provides you a link to the quick start guide. That's also up here. You can you can view the various layers that are available to you. You can turn them on and off. So, I often like to turn off the municipalities just because it's kind of busy. You can search for places. Say you want to search by species. So here I'm searching for muskie and northern pike. In this case, and this is explained in the quick start guide, click on these 3 dots, show related records, and this shows you the lakes of these 290 that have muskie and pike. And those are, I don't know if you can see them well, but they're you can find, which ones are close to you. There is a parcel search, if that might be useful. You can add data. I don't know if you'd want to, but say you have your own GPS and you've marked some places you've fished before and you want to remember, you can upload those right into this map, with one of these file types. You can bookmark a spot, one of these, let's say I zoom in and want to see this screen. I'll just add a bookmark, and then you can get back to this exact view. You can print out this page. Takes you back. Anyway, those are the basic tools. In the user guide, if you scroll down at the bottom, we have our phone number and contact information. If you have any questions about how to use these or the data, or you notice anything that's not working correctly. The other one is our trout stocked waters. Same splash screen. So here we have the light blue icons are lakes, ponds, and reservoirs that are trout stocked. The dark blue are trout stocked streams. And when you click on it, the pop-up will show you, each stocking date, the number of fish that are stocked, closures. There's also a link to the actual document, the trout stocking page, and then you can find the same information in this document. But we've put all of this information in the map itself. So, you can check it out and find, when things are going to be stocked and how many fish are going to be there. The tools are the same on this one as the other one. And I encourage you to check it out. Check out your, local trout streams. And I guess that's about it. Again, our contact information is at the bottom of the user guide, and don't hesitate to email us or call if you have any questions about how to use it.
Well, thanks a lot, Kevin. I hope the anglers appreciate this type of information as much as we do. A lot of this information might be considered common knowledge to the more advanced angler, but for folks just getting started in the sport, I think the real intention is to make it easier to find a place close to home, find a particular species to fish for. And I guess I just wanted to tell those of you on the meeting here today to keep your eyes out for another upcoming web application in which we're looking to make it easier to find the regulations on every water set. So whether you're on a small wild trout stream or a large reservoir, there's another one of these applications in the works. So stay tuned for that. That one should be pretty useful to you.
And that will also be housed within this same Freshwater Fishing Explorer, so you'll have a link here.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Kevin, for sharing.
So I'm going to go over freshwater fish species that are being recommended for listing as endangered, threatened, or special concern. So we do have a total of 90 species of freshwater fish in New Jersey, 60 of which are native to the state. And we're proposing that 9 of them be listed as either endangered, threatened, or special concern. So for these species that I'll quickly go over, we do currently have protections related to their harvest or related to their use as bait fish. So anglers should not be impacted really in any way in regards to that. So I'll quickly now touch on those species that are being listed or being proposed to be listed. So Atlantic sturgeon is the first species that I'll go over. It's currently not listed. It's being recommended for endangered species status. We have the bridle shiner and iron color shiner, which are currently not listed, and they're being recommended for endangered species status. They used to be fairly common throughout the state of New Jersey. The slimy sculpin, which is being recommended for listing as threatened. As you can see, it kind of looks similar to a sea robin. They are commonly found in cold water streams and commonly also found with wild trout species, similar habitat. We have the American brook lamprey, which is being recommended for special concern. You might be familiar with the sea lamprey. It's very similar looking species, but this one spends all of its life in fresh water. We have the black banded sunfish, which is a pinelands species. It's kind of looks like an aquarium fish, very beautiful. It is being recommended for special concern. We have a mud sunfish, another pinelands related species. It is being recommended for species of special concern. And we have Colmy shiner, a more river related species. It's being recommended as a species of special concern. Northern hogsucker, also another riverine species. It's being recommended for a species of special concern. And then a shield darter, which is also being recommended as a species of special concern. So any questions?
Yeah, I see 2 hands raised, Sean. Okay, Luke Lapadropper.
Hey, first of all, congrats to Lisa for her retirement. I just wanted to mention, I'm not like arguing against this, but how come brook trout aren't listed as special concern or any sort of, I think they're still listed as least concern, correct? I'm just kind of want to pick your brains there because according to like the last few years of me angling from, it seems like they're on the decline, I'd say.
Yeah, I can jump in and answer that question if you like. So yeah, brook trout are definitely a fish in decline. When we went through a formal process for candidate listing, they did come up as special concern. However, we had concerns in regards to listing them there because it wasn't entirely clear how a species that's listed as endangered, threatened, or endangered, how that might impact angling. So we acknowledge that angling isn't, the major reason that brook trout are in decline. It's more habitat. It's more, competition with non-native salmonids. So essentially, we, withdrew brook trout from this listing as they already have many protections within our land use regulations, considering that they're Category 1 streams when they're found. We already have a zero harvest on wild populations. but it's definitely something to take a look at, moving into the future. So, just in fact that it's not listed doesn't mean that we're not concerned with it. In fact, we certainly allocate more resources towards brook trout conservation, than any of other native species. So
Thank you.
excellent for you, pointing that out. Ross, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add to that.
No, Sean, you summed that up pretty well.
Yeah, just gotta say, add on top of that, we did recently pass some regulations for the brook trout conservation zone catch and release in terms of just regulations in terms of angling for brook trout in kind of the northwest area in New Jersey. So that was an added regulation that we just on top of kind of what Sean mentioned. They're often afforded those higher, like, because we find wild reproducing trout in certain areas, those streams are classified higher and they're protected to a higher degree. That was an added protection through just kind of regulations that we added as well. So that was just thought I would add that too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Scott. In order to stay on schedule, we're going to switch over to Tyler Tressler in the Hackettstown Hatchery to talk about walleye. All yours, Tyler.
All right, everybody, welcome. It's we're kind of doing something new. You can't see us, but Tyler and myself, Craig Lemon, are sitting at the hatchery tonight doing this live. Between the two of us, I have 36 years here, and Tyler has 16, so we've got 52 years of working here at this facility. Funny thing is, I started the same day as Lisa Barna, who's retiring June 1st, and I'm not retiring because I didn't do the stressful, move up the ladder thing. I stayed here at the hatchery where, it's a team effort. We love the facility. We love the anglers that, are fishing for our product. And so this year, we're going to just give you a quick, 10-minute view of how we do the walleyes. Walleye stocking started in Monksville Reservoir in 1989 from eggs acquired from Pennsylvania, New York, and Ontario. We first started stocking Swartzwood Lake in 1992 with 54,000 1.5-inch pond fingerlings. And we have a successful broodstock program that we began trap netting in 2000. And it's been going on strong since then. This year we started March 26th. We went up 4, 5, 6 days. It's always kind of guess your best is when you start because of the weather. Some years you start March 25th, some years you start April 10th. This year we did pretty good.
And the biggest question I always get is, where do we keep the walleyes and stuff like that? And I don't think a lot of people realize that we catch them out of Swartzwood Lake, bring them back to the catchery, and they're unharmed, and we take the eggs from them and return them to Swartzwood Lake. So I just want to be very upfront with that. Every walleye we take from Swartzwood Lake does go back there. And no, we don't electrofish them, and no, we don't use gill nets. That's the other two questions we always get. We use trap nets, which essentially is like a big minnow trap. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a big funnel that funnels all the fish to one spot. And what happens is we set these trap nets in the mouth of the stream. It's like Neldon Brook that flows into Swartzwood Lake. And we essentially block off the stream, and the fish swim into the trap net and get stuck, basically. We wake up every morning, right after that. Then every day we go straight there first thing. And the only thing I could equate it to is it's like Christmas morning. You don't know what you're going to get. And, you're hoping for one thing and you hope you get that. And sometimes there's some surprises, some bycatch, whether it's some yellow perch or a random smallmouth bass. But, obviously we're targeting walleyes at Swartzwood. And I don't know if you can see it in the top right picture, but that's a little present a beaver left for us. That's a big net repair job. That's why there's a green net there. We caught a beaver, but he chewed his way out. So when we bring these fish, we get them out of the trap nets, we put them in a live well on a boat, bring them back in the tank truck. The first thing we do when we get back to the hatchery is we put them in this tub here with some safe anesthetic, just to calm the fish down. It doesn't hurt them, doesn't kill them. Just kind of, we say it knocks them out so we can safely handle them. And right from that tub, we go on this measuring board and we collect all the data we need right here. We tell if it's male or female. We tell if it's a female, if it's ripe, unripe, or spent. Ripe meaning eggs are free flowing out. Unripe meaning the eggs are still in there, but she's not ready to spawn. and spent meaning we can feel a big void in her belly, and we know that the eggs were already spawned in the wild. And while it's on the board, we take a length and a weight, so we can keep that information. And this year alone, the biggest fish we got was a female that was, almost 8 pounds. And if you look at the bottom, you can see that almost half of all the females we got were over 5 pounds, which, really shows about the population in Swartzwood. And this is where it happens. Basically, we have 2 guys, or a guy and a girl. Oh, I'll show you. Yeah, we got a video here. There you go. So we have a male and a female being spawned into the same bowl, and you can't see it there, but somebody typically is holding that feather. There's a goose feather right there.
One thing we want to add in the right-hand photo, the guy squeezing the big fat female is Ron Jacobson. He's just retired January 1st. Some of you guys might know him from the Federator Sportsman's Magazine, Newark Bait and Fly. Ron's been big on Knee Deep Club. He's just retired at 83 years old. So health issues, but we saw him the other day. He was out trout fishing at opening day at Peak West, and he was looking great. So everybody always asks us, how's Ron doing?
Like we said before, typically per bowl, we do 5 males and 3 females. And then once we get everything into the bowl, we add a cup of water to speed up the fertilization process. And then after that, we actually put it in a large tub that we have a Fuller's Earth, which is like a clay solution that coats the eggs. Because in the wild, the eggs are sticky, to stick to the riverbank or the river bottom. And in the hatchery, we want that stickiness away. We want it to be free floating. Here's a cool video you should be able to see. These are the hatching jars. This is from this year we collected about 4 million walleye eggs. I think last year we had 5 million. And it all depends on some years we have more females than other years, and other years we have bigger females, and we'll get it all depends on what we catch. And these fry are in here for 15 days. Not fry, sorry. These eggs, it takes 15 days for these eggs to hatch. And here's what they look like when they hatch. They're super small, as you can tell, and they're basically like transparent, translucent, like you can see right through them. And that's the trough below all those hatching jars. They hatch out and they swim down and they all collect below in this trough. And while that 15 days is happening, like the first day we spawn fish, we either need to start this pond, which is here on the property, it's a 4-acre pond. We either need to start it filling, or we need to have it already filled, and that's our cue to start fertilizing it. Because once those walleyes are hatched, within 1 to 3 days, we put them out in a pond. We actually put about 500,000 of them out there. And in order to make them grow, they need to eat phytoplankton. So we spend a lot of time fertilizing these ponds with pulverized alfalfa meal and liquid nightan. And we do that 2 ways, which in this picture, you can see them both. The first way is with a tank truck with a 500-gallon tank on the back. We'll mix a couple bags in there and add water, and we'll drive around the perimeter of the pond spraying in. But like I said, it's a 4-acre pond, so you really can't get to the center. So we'll also put 10 bags at a time in this boat and have our crew drive around the lake, spreading it all over the place, and then mixing it in with the motor to really spread this fertilizer everywhere to get the productivity of the water body going. And a lot of people think like, oh, you put them in the ponds and they just grow. But really, this isn't a one-time deal. We're fertilizing this pond 1 to 2 times a week. Last year we used 6 tons of alfalfa meal just for some, a pallet, 6 pallets of, and there's 50-pound bags of alfalfa meal. And every week we check this pond. We do a secchi, we do DOs, we temperatures, and we monitor it to know if we need to add more fertilizer, less. And we also have staff on our crew now that uses a plankton tow net, and we'll actually look at the phytoplankton under a dissecting microscope, and we can actually see it decline as the fish are getting bigger because they're eating everything. And after they hatch, I talked about that trough, and I don't think I said it before, but these fish are really attracted to the light. So in the top left corner, you can see the lights hanging down there. And the way we put these out in the ponds is we measure them through water displacement. So that's me, we're dumping some fish into a graduating sill in there. So we know how many fry equals 500,000, which is our target to put into the pond. and then we put them into bags, which are infused with oxygen. And the bottom right, you can see one of our crew. We wade out into the ponds. We take our time, because they're really small, acclimating them. We have a thermometer there. We splash some water in from the pond, and then we release them. And then they're in that pond for about 50 days.
After the 50 days, we go in about 40 days with a 60-foot net and waders, and we do a quick survey along the shoreline, and we measure them to make sure where they're at. We're targeting like a 1.8-inch fish. Typically what happens is we lose all, if we put 500,000 in, we're looking for like 350,000 back out, like 60% return. And those that 60% of fish have pretty much eaten everything left in that pond. The blooms are gone. You can't maintain the food source. The sunlight starts getting in and the algae blooms start. So around 50 days, usually it's around, June 1st, we've got to get that pond empty, which takes a week at least to empty that. It's 4 acres and it's probably like 6 to 8 feet deep. So that's the crew. It's a very tedious job. It's not like Peak West concrete raceways. This pond's full of mud. It's full of snapping turtles. So it's like Tyler's saying, it's kind of an adventure. But we use these big 60-foot nets and scoop them up. The bulk of them are stocked at 1.8 inches, but we keep 40 to 50,000 fish, and we move them to a couple other ponds. And here's kind of what the other, we set up another 40,000 in 2 ponds at 1.8 inches. And then throughout the summer, that's our biggest pond in the top left. It's the 5-acre pond. And we buy 250 pounds of fathead minnows and put them in there as adults. And at the end of the season, we probably harvest 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of minnow fry out of that pond. And that's kind of what we call the deer drive. We got 2 guys on a 40-foot seine, and you've got 4 or 5 people kind of splashing the water. And we do that like twice a week on both sides of the pond. And the target is to get, I think the target is like 25,000 4-inch fish. So it takes about 2,000 pounds of minnow fry to produce, 25,000 4-inch fish. And this is kind of what, what our end goal is. Annual stocking requests from our regional biologists who are all on this presentation tonight. They put out like a grocery list of what they want us to stock. And every year, well, not every year, but most years it's 96,000 2-inchers, 24,000 4-inchers, and all 5 of the water bodies in the bottom right get 2-inchers and 4-inchers annually. And then knock on wood, we've done well. We've put a lot of river fish in the Delaware for surplus. I know a lot of you guys and gals take advantage of the river, catching a lot of walleyes. And I think that's the end of it, I believe. Anybody have any good questions for us?
Yeah, so once again, if anybody has any questions about walleye, go ahead and use the raise your hand icon, and Eric will take a look at that.
Still not seeing. There's one hand right there. Okay, Jim Sioko, I'm going to unmute you. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, Jim.
I didn't get the part about the fathead minnows. Are they put into the ponds for feed for the walleye, or you're raising fathead minnows to release someplace else?
No, we buy 500 pounds of fathead minnows from Arkansas, usually around April 15th, and we put them in 2 of our biggest ponds. And we feed those ponds every day with excess feed and bulk feed, and they get kind of drawn into 2 areas in the pond. And then luckily they spawn about the right time. So when we harvest that 4-acre walleye pond, we have piles of tiny fathead fry. So that's the deal. If you put the adult fatheads into the walleye fry pond, they'd eat all the fry. So we wait till the walleye, are 1.8 inches, and then we feed the tiny, 1/4 to 1/2 inch fathead fry.
I see. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot for the question. And Craig and Tyler, you guys do an awesome job. We're super proud of the consistent productivity and all the sweat and elbow grease and everything that goes into it. I don't think it can be denied that we've got one of the best programs in the country, and it comes down to the folks there putting the time in, putting the hours in. before, during, and after hours. So that's all greatly appreciated. I'm going to switch over to our final speaker. Kyle Civalier is going to talk briefly about the Skillful Angler program.
All right, thanks, Sean. Just want to do a quick presentation real quick and a couple of things covering the Skillful Angler program. We've had a couple updates. Just wanted to go over real quick what the program actually is. It was started in 1983 to identify and recognize those anglers who catch fish that just aren't record size, but they're still large enough to celebrate the catches. For the program, we recognize 43 different species, 23 in fresh and 20 in saltwater. And since the program started in 1983, we've awarded over 4,600 certificates. For the program, we have 4 divisions, our adult, junior, catch and release, and first fish, and 5 categories in that with our single species, our specialist, which is 5 qualifying fish of the same species, master, 5 qualifying fish of different species, our elite category, 10 qualifying fish of any species, and then we just introduced this year the Grandmaster category, which is awarded to those anglers who catch 10 qualifying fish of different species. So 10 different species in a calendar year, and you will win or be awarded the Grandmaster category. We also have 3 slams, our Bass Slam, which is catch a qualifying largemouth and smallmouth bass, our Panfish Slam, which is catch 1 crappie, sunfish, and yellow perch. And then we actually changed our Trout Slam to our Salmonid Slam, and that will be if you catch 3 out of the 5 species listed on the slide, which are brook trout, brown trout, rainbow trout, lake trout, and landlocked salmon. And then at the end of each year, the winners for those divisions and specific species are awarded a winner's certificate and a patch. And then we also changed 2 species, their length minimum requirements for the catch and release category. We changed our brook trout from 19 inches to 11 inches. And we also changed our brown trout from 25 inches to 23 inches. We did that solely because we didn't get a lot of brook trout or brown trout at those minimum requirements, and also the wild brook trout through our surveys and through anglers, they definitely don't seem to get that big. So we kind of want to at least make it obtainable to get these species and those certificates. And for the application process, you can fill out and sign the application, which is found on our website. There are 2 different ones, one for freshwater and one for saltwater. In that, you must include an unedited picture of the fish on a measuring device. You can use any type, a measuring tape, a bump board, whatever you have on hand. For our adult and junior categories, which are based off of weight, those fish must be weighed on a certified scale, such as a tackle shop or a butcher shop, anywhere that has a certified scale. One of our offices in the central region, northern region, or southern region. We cannot accept a fish weighed on a hand scale like your own personal scale. They're just not certified, so we can't make sure that that weight is correct. We also definitely encourage you to send a photo of you with the fish, as in my presentation and on our Go Fish Fridays on our website, we like to show those pictures. So we definitely encourage you to submit those high quality pictures. And with that, you can email that application and all those photos to the email listed below, or you can mail it in. There is an address on the application. And then I just wanted to go over a couple of quick measuring information. When you send it in, please make sure that the fish's mouth is closed. You measure from the head to the tail, and that the measuring tape is close enough either under the fish so that we can see it to get the right length. So this one, the fish's mouth is open, it's too far away. You can't really pinpoint the right length. As for this one as well, please don't have a BOGO grip or anything in the mouth. Make sure that mouth is closed and that you can, there's nothing blocking any sort of the fish, any sort of the measuring tape, so we can get a good ID on the fish and a good ID on the measurement. And then this one as well, that fish's mouth is wide open, so the length is not its true length. Please close the mouth and make sure that the board is visible. So this is what we're looking for. This is perfect. The mouth is closed, the fish is all the way at 0, and we can clearly see the end of the tail and the length, as well as this one. So you can use a measuring tape, such as the angler is doing here, and it's perfect. It's from the head to the tail, and the measuring device is out, easily visible. This one is almost correct. Not that you can't, but I definitely please try to measure the fish from the head to the tail. It makes it easier to be able to see that measurement and really be able to get that true measurement of the fish. Just a couple of statistics from last year. We received in 2023 279 applications compared to the 176 in 2022, which is actually a 63% increase, which is great. The program definitely seems to be growing, which is great to see, and I'd like to see it grow even more. 18 species were submitted by over 100 different anglers. Crappies and sunfish were the most abundant, as was our catch and release category, which had 250 applications. And then for that, with that number of applications, 250 applications out of 279, we are for 2025 discussing dropping the adult and junior categories that are based on weight and solely having them based on length. So instead of 3 categories, we would have 2, and it would be adult and junior, but they would be based on length and not weight. Sean, did you want to launch that poll?
So Kyle, as the results are coming in, I think when you showed me some of the numbers, you were indicating that the categories in which a weight is required isn't really, that popular.
No, through the past couple of years, we for the adult category, we get maybe I think in 2022 we got 3 or 4, and last year we got 3. So it just doesn't seem that it's a popular. People do apply for it, but they submit it on their own hand scale, which we cannot approve. So I think just with getting it from a tackle shop and a certified scale, it's just not a popular option, and a lot of the time you have to keep the fish. So I think it'd be, a good idea to change it to an adult and junior so that you can get the kids that are under 16 have their own category, and then adults as well, but solely based on length. So it looks like we had about 75% of you that voted, and 60% think that changing it to an adult and junior based on length is the right way to go. I'll probably send out another email to the list that I have from the Skillful Angler program, asking again for feedback. And you can always email me at kyle.civalier@dep.nj.gov or the NJ Skillful Angler email, or give either of those 2 numbers a call, and I will answer any questions, take your feedback, anything like that.
Great, thanks a lot, Kyle. And I definitely just want to let everybody know that many of the changes that occur with the Skillful Angler program come from you, the angler. Kyle takes it very seriously and into consideration. So as the program changes, we want to, model the program after what the participants want to see it to be. So I can assure you that your comments on the program will be taken into consideration. So with that, that was the last formal presentation. We're going to go into overtime right here. So if I could ask staff to turn your cameras on, and as cameras come on at this point, we're going to use the same method where if you have a question, please raise your hand. Eric will select you, and you'll have to mutually unmute yourselves.
Okay, we have one question, one hand raised. Charlie Rayner, I'm going to unmute you. Charlie, you're self-muted, so unmute yourself to ask your question.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. I have a question about the overpopulation of small lake trout in Round Valley Reservoir. And it seems to me that, the problem is imbalance in the predator-prey relationship there. Too many small lake trout, not enough bait fish. And I guess there's a couple ways to solve the problem. One is to add more bait fish to the reservoir. And the other one would be to reduce the number of small lake trout. And I would say, they're not mutually exclusive solutions. I'm familiar with the bait fish stocking. Are there any plans to make some changes to reduce the number of small lake trout in Round Valley Reservoir?
Go ahead, Justin, you want to take a shot at this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So Charlie, I would highly recommend attending our next fisheries forum coming up in 2 weeks, as I'll be presenting a presentation on some updates on both Merrill Creek and Round Valley and the situations that are ongoing with the lake trout there. But yeah, we actually do have a couple recommendations that we're looking at possibly liberalizing the creel limit at Round Valley even further than it is currently right now, as well as we're possibly having some discussions about the timing of the catch and release restrictions that we have at the lake for as we have about a month in the fall during when those lake trout are typically spawning. That is usually currently now closed to catch and release fishing, and there's discussions about whether or not we should be opening that as well to further increase harvest there. So yeah, we are continuing to further find ways that we can increase the amount of take that we have at that reservoir there to hopefully reduce the amount of mouths to feed at that reservoir.
Great, thank you.
All right, next on the list, Mike Herman, I'm going to unmute you and then unmute yourself to ask your question.
Hey guys, a couple of comments. Merrill Creek, Round Valley, generally fish there quite a bit. I'm on those reservoirs almost 100 days a year. So two separate questions would be Round Valley, has seen, has had its fair share of bait fish issues as far as just a lack of food. I think, with the increase in the water levels and the brush and the fish structure and the stocking of bait fish, I think, we have a real chance for that reservoir to start to flourish again as far as nutrients and being able to feed those small bait fish. And, hopefully they get into some of these fish cribs that were put in and, the whole chain of life starts to heal itself. I don't necessarily know if an increase in lake trout of, right now it's 6 plus another kicker over 24 inches is going to solve the issue. I think it starts at the bottom and works its way up, but that's just my opinion. The opposite is true in Merrill Creek. I've had a lot of trips where you're catching 15 to 20 lake trout, and generally speaking, people don't keep lake trout in Merrill Creek because it's a herring-based diet and it's an oily fish. It's a completely different animal, and I don't know what can be done there other than increase in the limit to try to take some of those lakers out. Because if I'm being honest, you guys have done such a good job with the landlocked salmon there. I think taking some of those numbers out may be in the fishing game's best interests. I think currently it's only like 2 lakers a day, something along those lines, or maybe even having it open all season instead of closed between September 15th to December 1st. I don't know that makes the most sense for Merrill Creek. It seems to be the population issue is more in Merrill than it is in Round Valley. And I know some of the guys from the Round Valley Trout Association are listening, and we've seen a little bit less in the way of lake trout being taken in Round Valley than in years past. Just from the tournament standpoint and the monthly numbers, it just seems there's less fish. They are smaller. I would agree with the first person who was talking, but I think it's more of a bait fish issue than a creel increase issue.
Yeah, if I could jump in to just kind of address some of that. All excellent points. You're definitely in tune with what's going on, that's for sure. The nutrients really are a limiting factor as well, as you kind of keyed in. So we too are anticipating, some added productivity with all that water from the South Branch being pumped in, bringing it to 98% full. The shoreline vegetation being inundated for that habitat. So we expect to see an increase in productivity. But unfortunately, the other side of that coin is we also anticipate that to be very short-lived. It's difficult to say how long, but previous pumping events were monitored for plankton and nutrient levels. You see spikes in those parameters, which is good, but when previously studied, those benefits diminished within about 3 months. Now, this is a more substantial pumping, and we're hoping for the best, but I don't know that the level of confidence that short-term boost is going to last very long. So I think the continued approach of reducing the number of predators and increasing the habitat, and it's going to be a combination of factors that help mold the fishery. Jump in if anybody else has any additional comments there.
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in as well and speak there. Mike, you're hitting the nail on the head with everything. You're almost taking the wind out of my sails here with my presentation coming up in 2 weeks.
Sorry.
Because you're hitting everything so well. It's great to see that you're so in tune with what's going on at both fisheries. You discussed the discussions about how liberalizing the creel might be ineffective, and unfortunately, that's something that's been discussed. But unfortunately, there's certain things that we as a fisheries agency can control, and there's certain things that we can't. And unfortunately, with like Round Valley, for the example, we have a very difficult time, obviously controlling nutrient levels there, which then, as you said, from the bottom up with the bait fish populations, it's something that's very difficult for us to be able to control. So, we're trying to work with every single tool in our toolbox that we've got, basically to try and increase and improve the fishery there.
All right, let's move on down the list. Alex Garris, I'm going to unmute you. Unmute yourself to ask your question, Alex.
Yeah, have you done any kind of studies on natural reproduction of channel cats in smaller waters, like ponds and, something not like a Delaware or somewhere we know that they're established, but say something like Echo Lake, in Union County, something like that?
Yeah, I can. No, we really haven't looked into it very much. I mean, we would suspect there's some degree of spawning that occurs, in many of the water bodies. If, given the right habitat, they'll go beyond that natural habitat. I mean, maybe even Craig can even describe, or Tyler can describe, how they, raise or how they spawn channel catfish within the hatchery. And I mean, so the same kind of, methods that they use could occur, in a natural setting too. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue, which we found out here, we have the prime conditions, are, they may go through the act of spawning, but there's no way that those small fish are going to have enough body fat to get through the first winter. Even at the hatchery, with us feeding them nonstop, we pretty much can't do it. So I can't imagine in the wild that you would see, that happening. That's the Delaware River, probably because there's enough forage out there. But those small fish, once they get to 3 inches, might get some food on them. But even a 6-inch catfish here at the hatchery going into winter will not survive the winter. So I think it would be hard pressed to find that.
All right, so those ponds, even if they have a feeder stream that's healthy, that stocking is needed.
Yeah, so I mean, just from a management perspective, I can tell you that we don't manage any of our waters with the intention of channel catfish, spawning and surviving. All of our management choices are, for channel cats are 100%, stocking reliant.
Those put and take fishery.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Moving on down the list, Luke LaDrapper, calling you again, Luke, you're unmuted.
So one of the comments I had originally was about Merrill Creek, but it looks like I'll tune in for 2 weeks from now to catch that. Don't have much to say other than that actually the catch rate for Merrill Creek for lake trout has, in my opinion, has gone down, maybe in size. Maybe it's just my opinion or maybe a skill issue there. So other topics I just wanted to maybe ask some questions about. this might be a bit of a weird topic to discuss, but regarding invasives like flatheads and snakeheads, what are your opinions, I guess, on the few communities around the state that do catch and release for those two species? And are there any considerations for maybe, I don't know, promoting that to the extent or maybe containing it to a certain area? I know it's a very strange question to ask you guys, but what are your opinions on that as a possibility or chance?
We still maintain the policy that it's a potentially dangerous fish, and it is a no release. It is a remove from the population, regardless of how long they've been here established, and regardless of the popularity of those species. We still maintain the position that those fish should not go back into wherever they came from.
And even more importantly, they shouldn't be removed and relocated somewhere else.
Right.
True that, true that. I guess another comment I did have, I remember last year I talked about some access issues around like the angling community. So it was really good to see the Greenwood Lake updates. I know that's a slow process, but I'm very thankful for you guys updating that. Just wanted to make sure that it's still kind of like a big topic on minds. Just seeing other access, for example, just going away, or just want to make sure that's a priority to get that access for us, and not just Greenwood Lake or lakes in general, but other streams, smaller ponds, and whatnot, wherever there's fish, there's more access in general.
I appreciate that, and to let you know that Greenwood is definitely a priority, not only with Fish and Wildlife, but with also Parks and Forestry, and getting that access in. And our commissioner's office also recognizes, it's a fairly large lake with, we have 2 decades investment of development in the fishery there. So we have a huge investment there. So we're definitely going to see that through. And we might be further along if we're willing to accept like a small parking area. But like I reported, that we really think this investment of trying to get every parking spot that we can in this site is really important with Greenwood. But then also access as a whole, our lands management staff is very driven towards access to habitats and also to the lakes on our wildlife management area properties. So they always have projects in the queue for putting, repairing boat ramps, putting in new boat ramps, and maintaining the road access to them. They use every dollar of funding that they get every year towards that purpose. And it takes us about 2 years of saving up that money towards one ramp. They keep that in the cycle and they keep moving through.
So as you're thinking about any additional questions you might have, I'm just going to give you a general overview of the agenda for the meeting that's going to be coming up in 2 weeks from today. So where we at here? I have the wrong agenda in my hand. So Justin's going to do a nice job. It's going to pretty much be the Justin show. He's going to go into great detail on our monitoring of our cool water species, walleye, muskie, northern pike, and hybrid striped bass. He's also going to go into some detail and share some data on lake trout, which appeared to be a popular topic tonight, lake trout and landlocked salmon updates. In addition to that, we're going to hear about our freshwater fishing education programs and R3 initiatives. We're going to see a video on the Peak West Trout Hatchery, and we're going to discuss potential regulation changes for the trout program. So with that, Eric, do we have any hands raised?
Yeah, I see a couple more hands came through. David Hawk, I'm going to unmute you. Unmute on your end to ask your question.
Hi, this is Dave. Appreciate you taking my call. I did submit 2 questions to the email contact prior to the session, so I was wondering if they would be addressed separately or should I address them now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and ask us the questions now.
Okay, thank you for the first question was regarding Oxford Furnace Lake. I was wondering if the Fish and Wildlife has a strategy to control the muskie population there. As a concerned bass fisherman, it's almost to the point where I dread going out there thinking that I'm going to get a muskie as opposed to a bass. And I know that you're continually doing annual stocking there. So I'm wondering if the intention is to turn that into a muskie impoundment strictly without the concern for bass, or exactly what the strategy is.
Yeah, so I can speak a little bit about that. So, when we stock muskies out of water body, I feel like, for the most part, we're managing those as a muskie water, but we try to do our best to manage both largemouth bass and muskellunge in tandem. It's a difficult balance, as you've just said there, and it's difficult, with our, we haven't been able to assess as much recently, more due to staffing issues. I'm hoping to get out there within, I'll talk about it a little bit more in 2 weeks or so, but I've been developing like a monitoring strategy for all these water bodies, and I'm hoping to get back out to Oxford Furnace Lake for the first time in quite a few years. I think last time it was surveyed was sometime in the 2010s for muskellunge specifically. I think it might be a little bit more recent for largemouth bass, but I want to make sure that I get out there and get a better grasp for the muskellunge population to see if there's any way that we could adjust the stocking rate, to see if there's any way that we could either both improve the muskellunge fishery, and if there's a lot of heavy angler interest in managing that lake for largemouth bass, making that known as you are now is also really good and useful for us. Provides us with that feedback that, maybe, it provides us the opportunity to possibly manage even better for largemouth bass, as you said there. And, working in tandem with Chris Smith here, our largemouth bass biologist, there would be definitely a really useful thing to do to, again, better improve that population if there's angler interest in that.
I'm sorry, Justin, just to cut in. Obviously, it's a restricted impoundment there that has limited access in and out to it. There are no predators to the muskie other than the fishermen themselves. And there are beasts in there.
Yes, there are. Yep.
Oh, I mean, literally, I don't want to catch one of those things.
Yeah, they're hard to deal with when you're unprepared for them.
All right, I'm second. I don't want to be lagging at that point, but the second one was regarding Spruce Run. During the drought period, a good portion of the lake bottom was exposed, and it was very evident that there is actually no cover at all in a good portion around the boat launch area specifically. Does the wildlife department ever take in initiatives to create their own artificial structures in an opportunity like that, certainly when it was exposed?
Yeah, so I think we'll kind of tag team this question. First, I can say one of the first things that I saw when I came on with Fish and Wildlife back in '99 was actually a project that Lisa was involved in with some fish habitat in Spruce Run Reservoir, with the incorporation of disposed Christmas trees, felling of some trees, and some experimental planting of aquatic vegetation. Those things are difficult in a water body that you have massive fluctuations. One of the good things is that over the years, we've developed a great relationship with New Jersey Water Supply Authority, and they've made attempts to change the way the water is used in order to stress the fishery out less. So I'll mention that as an example. I will pass it over to Scott real quick just to mention a recent project he was involved with at Round Valley.
Yeah, it's not Spruce Run related, but we recently partnered with the Round Valley Trout Association to create crib structures or modified crib structures in Round Valley, and we're looking forward to continuing projects there in other areas as well to kind of create that habitat in reservoirs where it's needed and where there's opportunities to do so. So we're excited to kind of continue doing more habitat projects in reservoirs and where we think that it's very necessary. In Round Valley, as you heard from sort of the comments before from some other anglers, that's one location where we really think that habitat's very needed, And we'll, in the next 5 years or, beyond 5 years, we're hoping to continue that as, that the little saplings and things that grew up might start disappearing. And we hope to kind of continue that into the future. So we kind of continue creating habitat and things that those kind of forage fish will need.
And then finally, I'm just going to pass the microphone to Chris real quick. Chris has probably been the most involved with lake habitat projects, in recent years. So Chris, can you just give a real quick explanation of some of the work that you've been involved with?
Yeah, I mean, we had an actual federal aid job for a lot of years, going back about 20 years ago, and we've tested a bunch of materials along the way. The design that Scott actually just recently used at Round Valley, we incorporated at the DoD pond about 25 years ago, so it's a tested structure. They're nice, they work. We've gotten away from using synthetic materials over the years. It's kind of come and gone. You will get a lot of requests for using, old, spackle buckets and PVC and that sort of thing. And we've just gotten away from that. We don't like those materials being dumped into the pond. We like to use natural materials. If anybody is looking to do a project, that's what we do emphasize these days. Natural materials, untreated wood, that's pretty much it. I mean, definitely places, any place, such as we'll say like a Spruce Run, where, when you think, or Round Valley, per se, these big places where you think you're dumping a lot of structure into a place, once it's lowered again and you see the 100 trees that you dumped in a quarter-acre spot, it doesn't look like very much habitat or structure anymore. So more is better. We've done some projects where we placed, upwards of 500-600 trees, in places, maybe a 200-acre pond. We've done a lot of trees. So we have a couple projects in South Jersey coming up that Eric and I have planned. Union Lake, Lake Lenape are on the and Assunpink Lake are going to be done here in the next couple of years. So take a look, check out our website and stuff for that information when we update those maps. So that's pretty much what I got. If any more questions about
Thank
habitats.
you very much for answering those, and you guys are doing a great job. It's a fantastic presentation. Thank you.
Okay, Eric, any other hands raised out there?
Yeah, there's 2 more hands up. Kevin Brogan, I'm going to unmute you, Kevin, and unmute on your end to ask your question.
Hey, how are you? Just a quick question. I don't know if anyone here can help me with this, but maybe you can give me a contact, I guess, for somebody in land management. I've been trying to get a kayak launch fixed at Split Rock Reservoir. It floated away. It's chained to a tree across the reservoir where nobody can access it. And it's been there for probably almost 1.5 years now. I don't know if you could pass that along for me or give me somebody else that I can maybe email. I'd appreciate it.
We'll certainly pass that along. Thank you.
Hang on, Sean, a minute. Let me give you Tony McBride's phone number, because he'll want to know exactly the location where it's tied off to. But that's 908-383-0918. And he is the Northern Regional Superintendent for Lands Management.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Janet Lacey, I'm gonna unmute you and unmute on your end to ask your question.
Thank you. Hi, guys. Lisa, I just wanted to say thank you so much for all the years. We really appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Have a great night, you guys.
All right, moving on. I think one more name I haven't called on, Mike Herman. I'm gonna unmute you, Mike, and ask your question.
Okay, sorry. So this is for Lisa as well, and thank you for your number of years. My question is on the Round Valley boat docks that are going to be installed. It sounds like sometime this fall. Are there any renditions of what they plan on putting in? The biggest concern with Round Valley is now that we have a full pool of water, we've got very limited access to get in and out with only being able to tie one boat to either side of the boat launch. At the very least, I'm hoping that guys can tie to the opposite side to have 4 boats on cleats, because that boat ramp, just on Sunday alone, there was over 30 trailers in the parking lot, which that's another conversation. But just coming in and out of there was pretty much a nightmare. There was 10 or 12 boats idling in the cove waiting for dock space to get out of Round Valley at 11 o'clock in the morning.
We can definitely pass that on. As far as renditions, I don't know if they're that far yet as far as purchasing that, but we can pass it on, your concerns, to the lands management staff. I think everybody here would agree with what you just said.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
With that, I don't see any more hands raised, Sean.
Okay, well, we're here a little after hours, but that's okay. That's good. We weren't about to penalize you for us going over time. So, you know, the real intention here is to both provide information, but also, you know, to get feedback on our regulations, on access, on our programs, what you want to see, you know, as New Jersey anglers. So with that, I just want to encourage you to, you know, not only attend our next virtual meeting in 2 weeks, same time, same place, you know, on Thursday, May 16th. Tell your friends. And with that, I just want to thank all the staff for the participation. Thank you, anglers, for joining, and hope to see you on the water. Thanks a lot, everybody.